All right, welcome back to the Career Coaches Podcast. Super excited for the episode today. Our monthly podcast of what's going on in the job market industry report with Adam, Broda, and Mr. Reno Perry. Reno's not joining us today. He's actually sick, so he's over there just taking care of himself. So today you just have Adam and I. Adam, man, how's it going?
Doing well. Yeah, excited to be here. We will carry Reno's spirit on with us.
We have to bring up sarcasm in, all of it. Yeah. Adam, man. So what is new in your world since last time we did this podcast?
What's new in my world? There's always something new. I installed a net into my basement to see if my 4 and 6 year old children would think it was cool. Turns out they I just literally hung a jungle gym net in the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to figure out how to get up there and how to get out of it. So they love it. My wife hates it. That's one thing. And then I jogged a half marathon this weekend. I believe you also did, Dale. I was in Atlanta, you were in Miami.
Yep.
I don't know if that counts as like an accomplishment I'm proud of, because I definitely could have gone faster, but it was my first one. So I felt good about completing it. That was the goal.
But it's like your first one, but it's not your first one. We both done a half Ironman, which it does include a half marathon. And so it's not like you haven't done that length before.
Yeah, that's true. It's just coming off of a bike for 56 miles, your body feels entirely different. So I don't, in my brain, I separate those things. I limped the first 2 miles of the one in the Ironman. I might have rolled like a log. I'm not sure if I remember it all the way.
I was super dehydrated after the bike that I was limping probably the last 4 miles of my half Ironman.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. We just got back from Colombia as well. So we got to spend a week together in Colombia working with the teams. You're working with your team and I was working with my team, but we got to catch up a lot. And I actually wanted to start with what do you think about Jack Dorsey's announcement of laying off? I think it's like 40% of his company, not because the company is in any financial danger, but he's just getting ahead of it.
Oh man, I like how you just kind of kick it off with the hot topic. Yeah, there's a lot of people talking about this on the job search side, on the finance side, on the tech side. I have the opinion that AI is a part of the story, but not the full story. And I kind of have the same opinion of a lot of these big companies laying off. I think I'm not going to say that I'm going to put Block in the same bucket as an Amazon, who just did, they did a 14,000 wave, they did a 16,000 wave. They're a much smaller company. So I think that there's some truth to what Jack Dorsey is saying, that some of those cuts were made because of efficiency gains. I think that's totally provable at this point, right? Like, we know models can replace lower level tax execution jobs. We know that, there's AI agents that can, partner alongside of higher performing or higher level employees and do the work of a small team. So that's happening. That's real. I think that there's a strong case for overhiring, though. I think Block went from 4,000 employees in 2019 to over 10,000 employees. And I think Block is similar to a lot of the other tech firms where there's this explosion of demand in 2021, right? And the companies weren't entirely sure how to deal with it. So many of them overhired, and they also hired in ways that didn't match up with their long-term strategy. Amazon's a great example of that, where they just kind of hired employees wherever they were in 2021. And then in 2023 and 4 and 2025, they were like, oh crap, no one works in the same building, right? We no longer have this culture that we want. So we're going to do all this crazy stuff to get people co-located. So yeah, I'm going to say 40% of his statement is true, that AI is driving the layoffs and there's efficiency gains. I'm going to say that 60% of his statement is crap. And I think his company is readjusting for overhiring. That's my feeling, just based off of what's going on with other similar sized companies in the same market that Block is in. I don't think they're on an island doing something extra special.
Do you think that he believes that is because of AI, or do you think he's just using that? Because I felt like I don't know a lot about Jack Dorsey, but I felt like he seemed very genuine and direct, and at least like the X post or Twitter post that he posted, right, which he hadn't even announced it. Like for me, I feel like he just like I my favorite analogy in the last couple of weeks, like the buffalo. He's going towards the snow.
Dude, we're getting some mileage out of this buffalo net.
Yeah, we know. And when things get in my head, that's how I tattoo it. Like it's just like I keep repeating it, and then it becomes a Danielism. And yesterday, I forgot what I was like. We were in a group chat, but it was like the second client. Like it was like this coach that got one of our clients. The guy is the second client. I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. He's like, I know, Daniel. The third one is a process. It's like,
Starting to wear off or rub
yeah,
off. Yeah. Remind me, you can make a note on your notepad, but I need to send you the guy on the Buffalo songs just because you're a part of this Buffalo culture now. So that's a side note. It's unrelated to the podcast. Shout out guy on a Buffalo, wherever you are. You know, you made a great one. What else? So I have one other thought there. I think we talked a little bit about talent density in our last podcast, right? And how that term is starting to pick up. It's been picking up for what
yep,
feels like 6 to 8 months. And companies are thinking about, how do I maintain the level of proficiency and productivity with less people, but still capable of creating the same amount of revenue? And I think that, I think that there's a factor there with the block company, where they're probably looking out, right? And saying, okay, we might as well trim the fat now. We might as well kind of reposition now. And I did like the way that he wrote
yeah,
the message. I think,
yeah,
I mean, respect to Jack Dorsey. I mean, I don't agree with everything he does, but the benefits package was, I mean, incredible, right?
yeah.
That was a killer benefits package. So, yeah, he did some right moves. I like how he was upfront about it. He was like, "Hey, we could drag this out for a couple months and do this in waves, but I'm just going to call it what it is." But I'll tell you, the last thought I have is as he's thinking about long-term talent density, as these models will get better and AI will get better and there's going to be more capabilities available. Um, I I've said this in my career community many times. 3 years ago, if a big giant company like Cisco would come out and say, "Hey, we're gonna do a 17% layoff, right? We're gonna do a large, more than 5% of the entire company layoff." And I used to work at Boeing, right? Which was infamous for massive, massive layoffs, right? In 2019, 2020, they did like a 23% cut of the company. So it used to be if a company would go through this big giant plus 5% layoff, that company would kind of become untouchable for a while, right? We would tell clients like, "Hey, don't go apply at Boeing, don't go apply at Cisco, don't go apply at UPS," right? They just went through these big layoffs. So it's typically going to be somewhere between 8 to 16 months before we would tell someone to go reapply there. That isn't happening anymore. That's not a statement that I have made in the last year and a half, because what we see now is we see these targeted layoffs from big companies, small companies, where they'll wipe, thousands of people in one go, whether that's half the company or 20% of the company. But there is no downtime between like this recovery window that there used to be. They'll turn around in the next couple of weeks or
They
next
hire.
couple of months, and they will post
Yeah,
thousands of new requisitions. And really, what you're seeing is, and again in 2021 and 2022, as the layoff waves started to pick up into 2023, companies would lay off and then they would pause to try and figure out what the new business would look like and what the right size was. Right now, you're seeing these very targeted, very specific layoffs happening where the companies are being strategic. They're wiping off bad products, they're wiping off services that haven't hit, and they're spinning right around very quickly and reinvesting in something else. So that's the one other thing I'd throw out is that this may be a move from Dorsey on, "Hey, I need to create a bunch of open headcount recs for the next product or for the next investment. And the easiest way for me to clear the table is to just do this all in one clean sweep, right? Maybe it's a little bit of efficiency, maybe it's a little bit of some other things, but in the next month or two, I wouldn't be surprised if Block turns around and starts hiring for the next big thing they're going to do.
But would you say is it because like he just didn't like the talent that he currently has there is not doesn't have the skill set to do the next parts of what he's looking to do, and so you have to let these people go, and then ultimately risk a lot of big cultural damage. You know, the morale, all of this is affected by it, and then now go rehire some people, and
Yeah.
say we just need a different skill set, or is it like, hey, I'm overpaying these people. They're not doing as good as I think it is. And I like I know we've talked about this before, like where you're essentially blending in lower performers uh like all into one, right?
Yeah. Good question. And I'm this is me grasping at straws and not claiming to know, but I saw a report of like the top 5 skills that were impacted at Block, and number 1 was software engineers. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he just wiped any software off, any software engineer. He could have wiped the lower performers. He could have wiped junior level. I don't know that information, but I think anytime you're wiping engineers or you're laying off engineers in bulk,
Yep.
I like my belief is usually the highest paid talent, right? The talent density equation, coming back to that, but like engineering talent traditionally is one of the last to go because those engineers could be pivoted into new things, right? They could be moved into new products. And what that typically says to me is they don't know what that next move is yet. And what my guess is, we talked about this last podcast, right, with the canaries in the coal mine study, that the white collar jobs that AI is impacting the most are entry to junior level, right? It's the highly repeatable, heavy task execution positions. And unfortunately, that is what entry level software engineering is, right? You're just sitting there typing away, doing lines of code, which now AI can do most of.
Yeah.
And my thought would be is those are probably junior level, entry level engineers that were relieved of duty. Um, and the idea is that, yeah, by the time Block is ready to reinvest in that next thing, that they'll have better AI tools in place to help their more senior level engineers do the work of those, what
Yeah.
those teams used to be doing. And I think that's where the 40% truth of his statement comes in, right? Like he's
Yeah.
probably not lying about that. Like we're hearing the same thing in other big giant tech companies that we're talking to, and
Yeah.
that truth is there. It's happening.
So what I find interesting, and you have a lot more technical experience than working with big tech and all, and working with a lot of engineers yourself, right? But from a more like people side, and like maybe thinking about it from a business owner and having different companies and thinking about leverage and saying, okay, there's 4 core leverages. You have
Mm.
code, which is technology. You have media. You have people, and you have money, right? Uh, I think a lot about there's different roles that a good a good software engineer could do the work of 10 average software engineers, right? And you have a good salesperson could close 10 times more business than
Right.
an average salesperson. So like there's this roles where there's massive leverage, right? But there's other roles where you don't get that same leverage. Like I worked at Frito-Lay, and the person that drives like there's not a guy who drives a truck faster who could deliver 2 times more locations. Like there's like at that point it becomes even more dangerous, right? So and so I think a lot about an engineer role. And I think I was like, again, before we hit record, I was telling you that I like not only do we read the same articles to kind of get on the same page, but we haven't even touched one of them. Don't worry, Marty, we will. Um, but I think about like the guys from the All In podcast that were talking about this particular topic of demand for software engineers, and they essentially said there's always for the last couple of like decade or so, there's always been a shortage of software engineers, especially really good software engineers. And you think about Anthropic, who is literally probably the number one disruptor of for software engineers, right? If you look at their website now, they have openings for software engineers.
Right.
So even the company that's building Claude, right, that's building all these an AI model that can replace software engineers, they have openings for software engineers, but all those openings are like $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 salary roles. So they're trying to attract those engineers that are 10 times, 20 times, 100 times better.
Talent density.
Talent density. Yeah. Yes.
Everything is coming back to that. You're exactly right. Keep going.
Yeah. So what they were saying, which I think is super interesting, I'd love to get your thoughts, is they're saying this like, and I saw this at PepsiCo. PepsiCo had a really hard time of attracting and retaining really top engineering talent. Right? It wasn't sexy. It wasn't a tech company. Even though if you were to go to the PepsiCo meetings that I was at, the CEO will come and claim, we are a tech company. We make our money selling chips. And I remember like the Bank of America CEO says, we're a banking company. We're a tech company. We just happen to make money from like, credit card and interest and loans. Right. And so I think that a lot of those companies, and even these are Fortune 500 companies, but even if you trickle down to Fortune 1000 companies, Fortune like 5,000 companies, right? We're talking about Inc. 100, Inc. 1,000 companies that are like less than 1,000 employees. They have a hard time attracting really, really great software engineer talent. And what they're saying is that the demand for software engineers will go up. They just will be able to be 10 times more efficient because of it. Like, and we were at dinner with like one of the co-founders of the AI tool for career coaches, and he says, I am 99% more efficient now. Like I can do 100 times more than I did a year ago because of code, but I still we can just go faster. Like we can go faster. So I guess for you, like, yes, like short term, there's a lot of movement from these big tech companies. They get all the news, they get all of that. But then when we look at unemployment numbers and we look at job creation numbers, it actually doesn't say that. It doesn't show that same story that you hear about the layoffs from the big companies.
I mean, my reaction to that is I think the market is changing, not collapsing or disappearing. I don't have the belief that the demand for engineers will forever be declining until it goes to zero. Like I don't think that will happen. We talk about the talent density equation, right? And if Microsoft needs 100,000 employees to make $1 trillion, and then AI comes along and they only need 50,000 employees to make $1 trillion, cool beans. But if you're the CEO of Microsoft, wouldn't you just be like, let's make $2 trillion, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we do that?
Yep.
So I think what you're seeing is this big shift where there's still a lot of uncertainty. Like companies heavily invested in 2024 and 2025 into AI related projects. And what we know from 2025 research is that a lot of them didn't hit. They didn't go anywhere.
Yep.
And I think what you're seeing is companies get smarter about where AI can practically be used to create some kind of positive benefit, and about where it's not ready, where they learned lessons from last year. So I don't have the belief that the demand for software engineering is going anywhere long term, but short term there's a lot of disruption, right? There's a lot of disruption because there's new tools, new products, new models, new tech. Companies are figuring out what to do with it. What we definitely have seen in the last 6 months, again, this is confirmed by multiple studies, is that entry level got crushed, right? Entry level got crushed because of the high repetition, the low strategy. It's more tax execution, which is where AI is thriving and having a moment right now. But that doesn't mean in the next 6 months to 12 months to 18 months, there won't be a new set of applications for those entry level folks to come back. If I was a software engineer right now, I mean, my MO would be, whether I had a job or not, would be to go figure out, how to build, deploy, and maintain some kind of an AI system, whether it's a side project, whether it's a group of friends from school, or whether I have an internship. Like, if you have that experience, there is demand for you. And I think to your point, companies can't seem to hire that fast enough, right? We keep seeing those roles get posted. There are software engineering, openings, but it's for specific skill sets. And those skill sets didn't exist 12 months ago, right? I mean, that's the crazy thing. That's why it's a changing market and not a disappearing market. We're just adapting to those changes, I think, in real time.
Yeah. Did you think that there was going to be a growth of 130,000 jobs in January, or did you think like 2026 there was going to be actually less job growth?
Yeah, good question. I can't lie. No, I didn't think that the market would do as well as it did. I think what we went from 4.4% to 4.3%
Yeah.
unemployment in January, right? So we exceeded expectations, and I did not think that was going to happen. I thought we would be right on. I thought that the projection would be pretty accurate. Um, 130,000 extra roles isn't it's not an earth-shattering number, right? I mean, I don't think really anything changes at this point about the conversation, but it's a positive sign, and I don't think we should skip over it. I think it's a good sign. We should get excited about continuing to watch the data and watch the market. But no, I didn't think we'd see that. I thought employment would stay around 4.4%. I thought companies would continue to be a little bit more cautious, maybe. Um, but yeah, time will tell. 1 month isn't enough data to react to in most cases,
Yeah.
in my opinion, right? In the world of Daniel Botero, you would need 3 months to establish a trend. So we don't have a trend yet.
I don't know. One month to give you like, two is a trend, three is a process. Like it's like
Okay, all right. Two is a trend. All right.
so. I might be very naive, very optimistic, very competitive. All of those things are probably ways that I could describe myself. When I look at unemployment at 4.3%, or we've heard this like, what if unemployment goes to 10%? I don't know if it's me, and this is maybe why I wanted to balance this conversation with you. You're more like cool, calm, and collected. I would describe Adam as a cool, calm, and collected individual.
Oh man, tell my wife.
Let's say if unemployment goes up to 10%, from 4.3% to 10%, I still think, well, 9 out of 10 people who want a job have a job. Why can't you be in that 90%? Like, to me, I still like my odds. And
Yeah.
what I would say is like, am I better than 10% of the population? And if I'm not, what is the skill gap that I need to get there? And I understand there's levels to the levels, right? Like if like at the end of the day, like the worst case scenario, I can go get a job at a supermarket and McDonald's and right, like I get it. Like maybe you won't be able to get a job that paid me as much as I'm making now. But am I crazy to think about that? Like, I mean, when I remember when I was speaking with college students, it's like, even if college students unemployment is 6% versus 4.3% for the general population, it's like, okay, well, there's 96% of people or yeah, 94% of people that are getting jobs. Like, why are you not one of them? Let's go. Let's do this. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to answer in the exact way you expect, right? Like, I'm a career coach, so I get paid to help people land the right job.
Yeah.
And I have kind of two thoughts on this. Number one, can a person with a career coach beat out 95.7 whatever percent of the rest of the I mean, yeah, I would hope that's the case, right? If you hire a person like me, can I make you more competitive than the bottom 4%? Gosh, I would hope so. I would hope that would be the case, right? I hope that number is much, much larger, and that would, I would be willing to stake my claim on that. Yeah, I can do that pretty confidently. Um, the other thing, the other thing I would say is the reality of career coaching is that people don't hire me to help them get a job at Burger King, right?
Sure. Yeah.
That's not why you would bring in someone like me. That's not why you would, pay for the tools that I use or the networks that I've created. It just doesn't make sense. So what we're talking about is like the upper echelon of roles. And you have that, that's all posted on my website and stuff about, it's not about just any role, it's about the right role, right? That's the goal for every person I work with. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that. I mean, gosh, the competition for those types of roles has gone up, right? It's gone up in the last couple years. And what, indicators of how I know that, indicator number one is that the interview process takes like an extra month and a half longer than it did 2 years ago, right? Instead of, you're going to interview with 3 people. Now you're interviewing with 6.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Because I have a theory, but I would love to hear yours first.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I would say the the biggest thought is just when companies know they can get their pick of the litter, right? When I'm gonna correct myself. When hiring managers know
Yeah.
that they can get their pick of the litter, right? When they know, hey, it's an employer's market, I can find the 100% perfect fit, they will start to get way more finicky, right? They'll get more selective. They'll introduce more layers, more steps to the process. They'll bring in, extra people, extra assessments. And the goal is, why shouldn't I take my time to get the exact right person that everybody loves when I have all of these highly qualified people that are that are willing to wait for multiple months? I just put a guy at Airbnb. Um, the guy is amazing. He worked his butt off. He did everything right, but his interview process stretched for over 3 months. That's crazy. That's crazy. That didn't. I mean, like used to not happen. Now, granted, some of that is timing around the end of the year, but that used to be unheard of. So even the top companies in the world they're taking their time, they're getting selective, and I think a lot of that is just driven by the hiring teams
Mm-hmm.
because they want the perfect person, which right, wrong, or indifferent, a lot of them are getting it. It just I think it hurts the hiring experience because they're willing to wait those extra days or extra weeks. They're willing to interview instead of 5 people, 15 people, and it's just changing how it looks on the entry side.
To your point, I think that one of the articles that we have from the industry report, shout out to Madi, like the producer who kind of puts all this together. Like you're talking about how like they get that they're not rushing it because there less people are quitting, right? People are like, what job? Like I think one of the articles called the job hugging it. Like people are hugging their job. They're not happy. They're not miserable enough to quit because of their fear of having a hard time finding a new person. And so if the reason, so I always go back and I think about there's really 4 reasons why a job is open, right? One, the candidate quits. Two, they're adding headcount to the department. Three, the candidate got promoted or moved to a lateral position. Four, somebody got fired, right? Really, if somebody quit or somebody got fired in a last second because they did something that wasn't predictable, but they just fire them. They said they caught someone stealing that they never thought they could steal. And so they make that firing decision really quick. Really 2 out of the 3 times, even maybe arguably the 4th, like, you can
Mm.
predict that there's gonna be an opening, right? Like, if there's a head count is we have a project, right? And, if somebody's gonna get promoted, there's people planning, and so you see all these shifts happening. And because of that, we if and we do this in our business, like, I literally, at Opry, we're hiring, expanding our marketing team, and we want to make an offer by the end of the week. And then we know that we're going to open up, we're going to need somebody else in 2 more months for the same role. So like, again, we're planning ahead. And because of that, I can be a little bit more, we could be more patient in saying, hey, this 5 candidates that we did the final interview with are good, but they're maybe not great. And so we can be more
Yeah.
selective on it. And so that's what we're seeing. And because there's less and less of this like improv, we need to fill this role. I'm a hiring manager. I have an opening in my department. I'm overworked. I'm working 80 hours a week because that work needs to get done. And so my pain is so high that I need to speed up the hiring process. We're seeing less and less of that, which is why it's delaying the whole process of taking or hiring.
Yeah. That's a good point, right? The pain intensity isn't what it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. There's a lot of factors there, but there's not as much sense of urgency. It's more about de-risking candidates and getting exactly what you want. And we don't want the good candidates. We want the great candidates, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
last kind of I want to go through this headlines really quick, and then I want to go into more of like the business of career coaching to your perspective. So you say job search activities surged by 31%, right? I missed, even though there was kind of like a flat, like even though we got 130,000 jobs, they're actually particularly in 2 main industries. So it's not even across the whole market. Like it's mainly healthcare, and I forgot the other one. I think it's construction. Construction and healthcare is like what led like the majority of that growth.
Data center construction.
What like you saw, I think it was like Indeed, it was an article from Indeed that talked about like 31% more people were looking for jobs this January than the previous January, right? What's your advice for a job seeker that maybe listening to this? It's do you wait until February or March, or do you just continue to apply for jobs? Like, do you quit? Because there was also like a dip in like job searching in December. They're saying people stop in the holidays and restart in January.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the other things that people stop in December and restart in January, right? I mean, it's ice. It's the yeah. Danielle is a poster child for starting things in January. Um, aren't we all? No, I would say it's the same. It's the same thing, right? People set those New Year's resolutions or those goals, and then they kind of get motivated. In January, February, and March are always periods of high points in terms of folks job searching. And again, I can say that as a coach because my application rate for people trying to join my program will go up in the first quarter of the year.
Yep.
Right? It's usually the best quarter. If we compare all 4 quarters. We also know that by nature, a lot of companies, not all, but a lot of companies plan their fiscal calendar in a way that the new headcount gets assigned at the beginning of the year, right? And they can start filling those seats. So we typically see hiring go up a little bit. We typically see job search rates go up a little bit. I I look at those numbers and I'm like, what else is new? Like I'm not that feels like a headline that we already knew, or at least I already knew that I'm not put off by, but um all that is to say, to answer your question, how should someone think about that? Right now, I would tell you that the job market, I mean, there's so many articles on this topic, so I'm gonna paraphrase just a little bit. But I believe it takes somewhere between 26 to 28 months to find a job, or not weeks, not months, but 26 to 28 weeks to find a job, right? If you've got no help and you're doing that on your own, and
7 months.
somewhere between 6 to 7 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I have to do math for this is for the average person listening.
Fair enough. I wasn't sure if weeks would be helpful, but yeah, divide by 4. Um, but yeah, if you're going into a job search, the the theology would be you need to be prepared to run that search for like half a year.
Yep.
So, if you work with a coach or you work with a headhunting agency or join networks or communities or whatever it is that you do, like, yeah, maybe you can cut some of that down.
Mhm.
Um, but even people that I'm working with, like, I'm not I'm not setting expectations that they're gonna land a job in 30 days. That would be a great thing to happen, and maybe every once in a while it does, but we don't average anywhere close to that rate, right? We average somewhere close to 3 to 4 months. So, anybody coming in, like, needs to be prepared for a longer term job search strategy. So if you're gonna start in January, you need to be prepared for 6 months. That puts you through the summer into the fall. If you're starting in the fall, be prepared to go through the end of the year. Um, and the idea would be, are there ideal times to find roles where more companies are posting? Yeah, that's true. But look at that article, right? There's also more people that will start searching, whether aggressively or passively at the same time. So I don't necessarily have this opinion that, oh, hey, you should be looking in January, you should be looking in February, and then, when the summer comes around, take a break, right? Go do something
On
else.
vacation.
Yeah, I don't have that opinion as a coach. I think you can find a job at any time. There's always roles coming up. There's always a demand. Companies need people. Um, I am a much bigger fan of, if you're not locked in on specific companies, which some percentage of my clients are, right? Like I got to work at the Anthropics or the Googles or the whatever, and that's okay. If you're not locked in on specific companies, I would say follow the money and follow the technology, right? Go subscribe to a venture capital newsletter and figure out where the VC firms are investing money. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go work at a startup, right? You could, but anytime VC firms start backing startups for new products or new ideas, guess who's also following that money trail? The big giant firms,
Mm.
right? They're doing the same thing. There's a lot of vast following and mirroring going on. So, yeah, if you see a bunch of money go into, I don't know, AI powered, data center construction, go look at companies that do that. And I think that's a much better strategy is follow the money, follow the investment headwinds and tailwinds, try to figure out where the hiring is happening and position yourself so that you can get to the head of that line. You can do that effectively virtually any time of the year. Any time of the year.
Adam,
Yeah.
so we've talked a lot for the last 36 minutes, a lot about kind of like some of the things that are happening in the economy, right? With the fear of layoffs with that. As a career coach, how should someone be thinking about this? Is this good for a career coach? That's like, is this bad for the career coach? Like,
Mm.
how do you see it? Do you feel excited? I mean, I understand like you don't want to be celebrating someone losing their job, but like in a sense, like, do you feel optimistic about the direction of the industry that career coaching is going, or do you're like, hey, this is gonna be a bad year for the industry?
I'd like to say two things. Number one, there's no part of me that gets excited when people lose their jobs,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't want the market to be bad because career coaching will be good.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, the economy is healthy. There's plenty of jobs, and what I'm doing is helping
So,
upskill. Right? I want to take you from B to A. I want to
yeah.
take you from Star Trek to Star Wars. I want to help you go from good to great.
All right.
That's
Better work.
really
Better work. Yeah.
yeah. Those are
Better work, ladies and
yeah.
gentlemen. Yeah.
That's exactly it. That's why it's
Yeah.
called better work. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't I don't want I don't want the people that are desperate and can't, like out of luck and I'm trying to help, them recover things. I want you to go from a good job to a great job.
Yeah.
So I'm cool in any market. The second thing I'll say, and this is a loaded question, is I think that the tail end of 2026 will be better than the tail end of 2025. I think my expectation is that the market continues to see kind of this roller coastery mix and match. There's some layoffs, there's some growth. Maybe we have a good month, maybe we have a slightly bad month. But I still think you're going to see this little bit of a wobble for the first half of the year. My positive belief is that more companies will start figuring out what good AI investments look like and good technology investments look like by the end of the year, probably the late third quarter, fourth quarter. And I think you'll start to see some of that tech demand come back, right? Hey, we now understand what it looks like. We've got the talent density equation figured out. So we can go invest in more products, go invest in more services, and we need people to facilitate those, even with AI assisting them.
Yep.
So my hope is that 2026 is where we start to turn a little bit of a corner on this technology cycle and job demand for specific types of roles go back up. Hopefully the entry level to junior level market start to recover. And I hope that it's generally a good thing for career coaches and generally a good thing for job seekers because coaches are just as effective when it's an employee's market as they are an employer's market based on what I just said. So I think, and I'm biased and I'm obviously trying to be overly positive, but I think 2026 will end in a better place than where 2025 ended. I think that's what will happen.
I think the career coaching industry is in a really good spot and is only going to get better. And the demand for a career coach will dramatically increase. And not because I think there's going to be like a 10-20% unemployment rate and people are going to want to hire a career
Mhm.
coach to have a competitive advantage. Like, I think more because trying to understand and at one, I think people are going to have to make a lot of pivots in their career because there's so much change in the jobs, and then figuring out what like curating a understanding where should I be upskilling, where should I be applying, having a somebody who has a broader view of the market, who not only understands one person's point of view of a career, but
Mhm.
has hundreds, if not thousands, of point of views in their career, can be like, hey, actually, you're in a really good spot in your company. Stay there. If you like your manager, let's talk about shifting to a different department or a different manager, and not necessarily leaving the company. Or somebody who's like, hey, I'm just content, and a career coach can be like, hey, you should be making 150 versus 100, and by the way, you can actually have better work-life balance. Like, I think I always think about your story of Boeing and Amazon and how you were able to actually have better work-life balance and increase your pay. Like, you could do both at the same time. um and I think that just like you have a realtor that helps you buy a house, and the idea is that like they're able to help you save and negotiate and find the right place for you. And their whole idea is that a good realtor has a really good pulse of the market, understands the right communities, the school districts, the safety, like all the things that might be important to you. Um, that's a full-time job to stay up to date with what's going on. I think that a good career coach is always staying up to date with what's going on, and it's helping their skill sets. And I think that this goes back to why I actually think it's not just a career coach. I think a very specialized niche career coach becomes a competitive advantage,
Mm.
because if I've seen this, where you can create this flywheel effect. Let's say you become a career coach in medical sales. I just think that's such a great niche, right? And you've now placed 300 people, and they're now working as medical sales reps all across the industry, right?
Yeah.
What happens 5 years later? Those people now become district managers, regional managers. They just continue to grow, and you continue to just build those relationships. And now a good career coach in business becomes like the equivalent of a really good alumni network from a top 10 MBA school, right? You just now have all these people opening doors, and you create this flywheel effect. And I think if you're a niche career coach in the future, that's going to become a massive advantage. You'll have understanding what's going on in the industry. You'll understand how to upskill. Like, I think going back to what we've talked about this before, not in the podcast, but like live events of like, it becomes the intro of a career coach becomes, I'll help you get a job. But I do think the relationship between a career coach and a job seeker becomes a long-term relationship, and they continue to come back to that career coach. And I think that the business model might change, where it's not just like, you pay me $5,000 and I'll work with you until you get a job. I think that the business model will change, where they're maybe paying 1 or 2% of their annual income, but they have continual access to continual education in the market. They are updated to different opportunities. It becomes kind of like an agent and an artist, like,
Yeah.
where they're just taking a percentage of pay, but their job is to always make sure that they're getting paid the right way, and they're in the right job, and they're all
Yeah.
that. But anyways, so I
I
actually
have a comment there.
yeah, yeah,
So I'm tracking with you. What I would just say is, if I was a career coach where I only worked one-on-one with clients, and I was doing a lot of resume writing, or I was doing a lot of, LinkedIn optimization, that's probably the type of coach that I think should be worried, because a lot of those skill
yes,
sets will likely be replaced in the next, I don't know, 2 months, 6
yep,
months, 12 months. Um, where the coaching really starts to offer serious value that I do not think AI is gonna threaten anytime soon is on the community side,
yep,
right? If you can come work with Adam Broda and get access to a network of 500 corporate people that have gone through the program and are now alumni, can AI replace that? Heck no, right? As long as hiring is a human-led process and equal employment opportunity law is still a thing, it's, decision making is going to be done by humans. So if we can get you in touch with those people, there's massive value there. So like I said, if I'm a coach, I'm probably worried if my job depends on my ability to write a resume. I'm
yep.
probably worried if it depends on my ability to recommend, which companies are hiring, because so much of that can be automated. The piece that won't go away anytime soon is, it's the people side, right? If you can come work with me and I can build your network by 50 people, and those 50 people unlock a ton of opportunities, not just in the next 3 months, but maybe the next 10 years,
Yes.
that's huge. And I think that's where I would be looking to go if I was in the coaching space, entering the coaching space, is how do I go from this like one-on-one model to this model where I can offer layers of value? That's how I would be thinking about it.
That is why, and I think that if you're a career coach, and while I talk about the different levels to it, because there's levels to the game, but even at a point where I think about you, as a big coach that has a really big following, you could go and do a solely group program. You could.
Yeah.
You can get away with it, and you can build a really healthy business on it, and it could be technically more scalable. But I actually think that the best programs where is the good like overlap of scalable, impactful, and profitable, right? So it has all those three elements, have three pillars:
Mm.
strategy, accountability, and community. And that's what we teach our clients at Open. It's like, hey, like ideally you want to build a product that has strategy, accountability, and community. Strategy is what people think they're selling, but let's be honest, like the strategy itself, like I think AI will replace it the fastest, right? Like to be honest, I think the strategy itself, the accountability in the community to me is the biggest reason why someone would work with a career coach. And because 90+% of the strategy would be the same for every coach. I've seen enough programs to know like the secret sauce is very, very, very small. Now it can have a massive impact, right? Like but it's the accountability that would probably play a bigger role of how much the client trusts and respects you to execute your advice to get better results. Like, yeah, I think that's actually one of the biggest levers there. And so I do think that if the biggest lever points for strategy, community, and accountability, it's niching down. And the smaller following you have, and it's what we always talk about. It's like, what are the 3 proofs that are required to convert a stranger into a paying client? Is social media proof, background proof, and testimonial proofs, right? And
Okay.
if you're starting out and you have just maybe been laid off, and you're thinking about going back to corporate or starting a career coaching business because you have this 25 years of experience. Like I just spoke to someone yesterday. They have 25 years of working in petroleum, right? In oil and gas in Latin America. They were chief human resource officer for a top 10 energy firm, right? Very clearly for me, if she's going to be a career coach, her niche needs to be oil and gas in Latin America, and roles that like she had all these different job titles. Like she was like, any role that made more than $75,000, which again, like in Latin America, that's a lot of money. I think that should be it. And you own the niche because eventually the people that you're replacing become the general managers, become the CEO of these companies. And you, if anybody wants to grow their career in oil and gas, they need to go to you. And like I think that to me becomes like the perfect business model. And I don't think you're too late to do that now. I actually think it's the perfect time to do that.
Agree.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of time. I don't think time is the constraint right now. I think it's just how fast you want to go and how much time can you put in and what does that look like. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Before we wrap it up, Adam, I know we only have less than 10 minutes. What have you seen in changes when it comes to LinkedIn um, in 2026?
In terms of like posting or
Yeah, like is it like visibility? Is it posting? Is it like at least for me, like I have not seen a lot of traction. And uh I feel like our views are down. And then I feel like it seems to be very common across the board.
yeah. Um Obviously a lot's changed with LinkedIn in the past 8+ months ever since they shifted over to the new 360 brew algorithm. I can't claim to know everything. I'm testing things. I'm trying to my best to observe. I'm trying my best to leverage a network of peers that I talk with. Um, I would say that my viewership took a pretty big hit about 6, 7 months ago. Like that's really where it was the loosest or the roughest or the biggest impacts. And then we've slowly kind of clawed it back to what I would call normal over the past couple months, where we have a fairly consistent number of views month to month now, pretty close to what it was before. Biggest changes that we have made is actually in how we do comments. So, the amount of time that I spend commenting when I'm commenting, um, the windows in which I'm responding to people that have put stuff on my material, we've changed there. What it used to be about was kind of everything happening in that first hour, right? I'm very active in the first hour after I put material up. I'm trying to respond to every single comment. I'm trying to post a comment on everyone else's stuff. Um, I really would say that I drastically spread that out now. I kind of do little sprints. Let's use that word for a second. I'll
Yep.
do like a sprint's worth of effort over the first couple of hours, typically the first 1 to 3 hours per day. In some cases, I'll kind of go till around lunchtime. I post at 9, so from 9 to 12, I have a lot more kind of effort sprinkled as opposed to doing everything in the first hour. And then I'm pretty consistent now where I will do a little bit of a commenting cycle towards the afternoon. So like 5 to 6. Again, I'll do like another little mini sprint. Um, And that cycle seems to feed my posts longer term much better. And I would tell you, like, that's actually the biggest difference between when my content was down about 6 months ago to where my content has crawled back to normal now, is that the performance I get out of the posts in hours like 6 to 12, or in some cases 6 to 18, is so much higher, right? I get a lot of views and a lot of impressions in the back half of the day, once the post kind of sits and resonates and people have started to reshare it or save it. um, I would say that that's the biggest difference. What I think is driving that is saves and reshares. So
Mm.
that's another pretty big change in how the 360 Brew algorithm looks at things and decides on what to push and reward. Um, Saves is a big one. So, again, cheat sheets typically get saved and reshared a lot. So I've said cheat sheets is the number one performing thing that I've been doing for the past 8 months. You could have a viral image with a quote on it, right? And that might get a lot of likes, but it's probably not getting a lot of saves and reshares. So the reshares and saves metric will carry the post into that second and third and fourth day, whereas that viral kind of first couple hours might not carry as far. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question directly, but building content that establishes you as a subject matter expert, that gets saved by your audience, that gets reshared by other people, is probably the strategy I would tell people to focus on. And I think by default, that means more content that adds real value. You can still incorporate the quotes on a billboard. You can still incorporate some of the more viral things. I'm not telling you to move away from that, because you do want some broad level reach. That's how more people will find you. My viewership is, I think, pretty healthy right now, but my follower growth rate is at an all-time low. So like I
Yeah.
don't, and to be honest, I don't necessarily need more followers. So I'm not building content with the intent of growing that number. Um, so keep that in the back of your mind, right? Maybe you do want to grow more followers and your strategy is a little different from me. But yeah, content that transfers value, content that shares insights, content that's helps solving pain points for your ICP. I don't know if it's ever been more important, because it feels like that's what the algorithm wants to reward. And if your audience is responding to that content by saving it, reposting it, and sharing it, that's a really good indicator. And typically your content will carry further.
Yeah. No.
Good question.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that I think writing to your niche, especially if you don't have a lot of followers, um, will I think works really well, right? Like I think like yeah, you don't need you don't need 100,000 followers to build a business, and I still think it's true in 2026. I think that if you're speaking to your niche, even if you're only getting 20, 30 likes, but those people are your niche, I think you could build a very healthy business around it. And I always think like the algorithm could change, but if you're providing value to the world, if you're providing value to your niche, like that's always going to be undefeated. I think the part that frustrates me more than anything on LinkedIn is how much they say video is important and video will play a big part and video will do all that. But then I just think that every time I put a video, it just flops. So maybe that's just my
Video, just to add on this really quickly, um, I would say for the past, 8 months, video is my lowest performing piece of content. But weirdly, in the last like 4 weeks, my videos have started to pick up. Even videos that I posted months ago have started to pick up. Like I went back and looked at a video I made about 4 months back that just bombed when I put it up, and the viewership had actually doubled on it since like the first 2 days that I had put it up. So I don't know. It's weird. I think the short version is we never know what LinkedIn is doing with video.
yeah.
I like their philosophy on it and how important it is feels like it's like the changing tides on the ocean. Sometimes they love it and sometimes they hate it. And it's
Yeah.
honestly pretty frustrating, in my opinion, as a user of LinkedIn. Is like, guys, can we just figure this out so that we know what the heck is going on? But yeah.
That's the part about LinkedIn. It's like I love LinkedIn, but I'm also LinkedIn's biggest critic because like we're doing this live on LinkedIn and on YouTube.
Mhm.
And the challenge is that there's actually a lag between us here on Riverside and what YouTube is. And so when I would love to have this be interactive and people put comments and ask us questions, which would be super great for, like, I think we would enjoy that even more too, right?
Yeah.
Is that by the time somebody asks a question, we've already moved on from that topic. And I think that's the challenge of like LinkedIn. Like, this is not like a brand new technology. Uh, like, people have been streaming for years now. Like, Microsoft owns LinkedIn. Like, you guys do this on video games. Like,
Right.
you own the Xbox, you own the,
It's not hard. You know how to do it.
you know how to do it. Can you copy
Fix it.
paste the code? I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
and why can't, like, would it be way more interactive if we got to ask questions? You could do that on YouTube. And that's the part of it, is like, same thing is like, I wanted to start a community. We talked about community being super important.
Mhm.
LinkedIn had all the right, like, it's so, I don't see how difficult would it be for them to own the community platform. But now you have school, now you have a circle, now you have all these community platforms where, if, why don't we have our community on LinkedIn? Like, it makes total sense for career coaches to build their community on LinkedIn that then connect them to alumni. Like, all this whole thing could be owned by LinkedIn, and their community sucks. Their community, don't, I was gonna say, I'm already canceled on LinkedIn, so whatever, if you're looking into it, take the advice for what it's worth, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it's like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
They've missed a lot of opportunities in my opinion, and I think every time I talk to somebody in their engineering team or their product team, I just kinda get the same response. It's like, "Hey, we're here to sell premium," right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what we wanna do. We wanna sell premium. That's where we make all the money. A lot of that just comes from the ATS side of LinkedIn and the search capability. So we're not as focused on, like, what the social the social experience looks like or what it looks like to be a creator. It's like, you guys are just you're just missing it. You're missing it. I don't know why, but
I think it's
anyways.
short term. I get the whole premium thing, but then again, I want to run ads. You're running ads. Like, wouldn't it make more sense for us to run ads on LinkedIn?
Of course.
But why don't we? Because it's so hard to run profitable ads on LinkedIn that we have to go start a brand new Instagram account, have 300 followers so that I could run ads on Meta when I have 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. Tell me how that makes sense. You have 500,000 followers on LinkedIn, Mr. Adam Broda, and you're running ads on Meta. Tell
Yeah,
me,
but I just crossed 600 followers on Instagram. So
like,
it doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense. LinkedIn, again, it's like they've been dropping the ball for the past, I don't know, decade. Uh, they have a huge user base that's actually pretty active now. I mean, comparatively speaking to where it
yeah,
was even 5 years ago. And it's like the product teams don't it's like they don't want it. They don't wanna be a social platform, they wanna be an ATS driven job seeking platform, and that's kinda it. Um, every time I hear something about, "Hey, this is what we're doing with creators," it's always like it's always industry knowledge based. We wanna promote people that have industry knowledge. We want LinkedIn to be the place where you go to listen to experts,
yep.
which is again, I don't really even know what that product strategy is,
But
but
I think that's great. Like, I really like this strategy of them going and getting X writers from Wall Street Journal, X writer from the New York Times, X writers from, like, Washington Post, and then have them post about the economy and industries and do that. I thought that was great. Like, fine, and double down on that. But then that should drive more people onto the platform, to you more active users and not somebody who's using LinkedIn to get a job, right? All of that is great. But I think you have so many low hanging fruits, uh, which I've already shared, and we're running out of time. And maybe we start the conversation like this next time, because I actually think that,
it could be episode 3. What's wrong with LinkedIn?
what's wrong with LinkedIn? That's gonna be the topic. Like, you know, I just don't think for you, like, you do well with the algorithm. I don't think it's worth it for you to talk about it. For me, I have nothing to lose at this point. The fact that I have 300 subscribers on YouTube, and I think YouTube helps me more with my business than LinkedIn. I think that's insane. I don't know. Anyways, I'm done.
I mean, I love LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for a long time. I am
I don't know if
loyal
he'll see
to it
bring
to a
up degree.
degree.
You know what his
Yeah,
thoughts is
but
on.
but you're not wrong. I mean, go look at some of the biggest creators. Like Jasmine Alec he just did a huge post about this. Jasmine Alec is a massive creator on LinkedIn. I think he's usually in the top 3 in terms of like global engagement. But his account was banned for bot activity, and his whole shtick is that he doesn't use any bots. Right? It's 100% him. And he wrote this big long letter to Ryan Roslinski, the CEO of LinkedIn, and somehow it got picked out. Anyway, whatever. We could talk about that on episode
Well,
3.
I mean,
But
if that
it's not
guy,
just
that
it's not just you.
yeah, Adam, I appreciate you. I want to go. I want to go on a walk. I want to get some sun. I'm gonna go ground myself. I love you, LinkedIn. Don't blackball me. I'm your biggest fan. More than happy to go to pay my flight all the way down to your headquarters and have a conversation with your product team. Take it for what it's worth, free advice. But as someone who's been on this platform probably since 2010 and have
Yeah.
helped so many people actively post on LinkedIn, probably I would say we're probably top 100 people on the platform that we've helped influence and to be more active on the platform. I think I can add a lot of advice. But anyways, Adam, you're awesome. Thanks for being here today. Reno, if you're watching this and you're sick, we missed you on this podcast. Looking forward to having you on the next. And if you're watching this and you find value in this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And obviously, because on YouTube, there's not a subscribe to this podcast because, again, we're behind on this. Please subscribe on sorry, if you're on LinkedIn and there's no subscribe button here, you can go to YouTube. They do have a subscribe button.
It's another product feature we need.
I mean, yeah, like I think podcasts are taking over again. Oh, we're good. I'm done. Podcasts are taking over. Even Netflix has podcasts on their homepage, on their home thing. YouTube could take over business podcasts. Not even
This is episode 3. We need an episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3. All right, guys, everyone, thank you so much. See you guys on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
See y'all.